In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you how to break free from the immigrant boundaries if you're an entrepreneur. If you look, like if your family comes from a third world country, you're moved to the United States, you're living here in the United States, or maybe you were born in the United States and your family's background's from a third world country, and you're looking to grow a business and you're looking to get to that next level, I'm going to be sharing with you my story.
I want to change lives. I want to show people how to progress in their money. I want to show people how to progress in their mindset. I want to show people how to progress in their brand so that way they can take care of their family, take care of their finances, and experience freedom.
My family originally came from Haiti. Haiti literally, it feels like it's built on a rock. And right next to it is the Dominican Republic. And I went there one time in 2014 and I got a chance to see where my dad came from. And he came from a small town on the countryside called Cais. And in 2014, I got a chance to see the background, see the poor village that my family came from. And then I went back to my life back in the United States. Now, I was born in the United States. I was actually the first one that was born in the United States. My dad and my mom were both born in Haiti. Most of my older cousins come from Haiti. And me being the first one, I had this feeling of that I have to win. I have to succeed. A couple of years ago, my grandfather had passed away. So my grandfather came to the United States. And when he came to the United States, he came first. Then he worked, brought my grandma in, and then my grandma came with some of my aunts and uncles and included my mom. And knowing that my grandfather worked so hard day in and day out in order to make money just to get by, I felt like I had a responsibility. And in 2020, he passed away. He was 86 years old when he passed away. And realizing that the journey that my grandfather went through, I realized that I got to create something successful. And it can't be as simple as working a 9-to-5 job, that I need to do something radical in my life just to prove the point that my family made the right decision to come. So today I own a growing marketing agency and I own a marketing software company where I help thousands of small business owners. But it didn't all start like this, right? It didn't start like this. I run $1 million business today, but that's not the beginning of my journey. I was raised on the East Coast in the smallest state in the country, Rhode Island, the smallest state in the country. And I was raised in the smallest city in that state. And growing up, I was around gangbangers, drug dealers, and so on and so forth. I have friends who are currently in prison, but I share that with you not to impress you, but to impress upon you that the background that I was created is probably like many of you, right? If your family comes from an immigrant background and they move to the United States, they don't have the money to live in Beverly Hills. They don't have the money to live in luxurious places. They don't have the money to establish connections with the right people and so on and so forth. Like they're just getting by day in and day out. And I understand that one of the biggest reasons why we don't have what we need to have in order to really prosper is because of lack of knowledge. If you're an entrepreneur and you're running your own business today, or maybe you're an immigrant and you want to start a business, or your family's an immigrant and you want to start a business, this video is for you. And in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you some key understandings through my story on what it's going to take for you to really grow. I built $2 million businesses at this point, and I'm only 28 years old, and there's a lot more that I'm creating. And I think as an immigrant, you have a lot more capabilities than the average person who might have been born here. As an immigrant, you have a different type of grit inside of you. As an immigrant, you have a different type of hustle. As an immigrant, you have a different keen eye to spot opportunities, right? Like it's completely different when being born in the United States and not having the immigrant background to being an immigrant and having that immigrant background. But there are some challenges that come with being an immigrant, right? The first challenge that you're probably going to experience is like the lack of access to business knowledge. One of my friends today, he owns a pretty decent sized company and he does a credit card processing. And if you don't know how that works, whenever you swipe a credit card to a small business, that small business typically pays a fee to take that credit card payment. And they pay Visa, MasterCard, American Express, Discover. They pay them a small percentage. So when you take your credit card or your debit card, you go to a small business and you pay $100. Before the company gets the $100, Visa takes out 3%. So out of that $100, Visa takes their $3, and that's how Visa makes their money, right? And then the actual business that you're paying only makes $97 out of it. Now, that money that Visa makes, they split it with different partners, okay? They split it with different partners, and they have a bunch of different partners because there's billions of dollars in that industry. So there's people who are making a lot of money on the little percentage. And one of my friends, when he in his business, what he said, he's a black man, and he said, Andy, we don't have the complexion for connection. And it dawned on me what he was saying in that moment. So his business was built on the back of billions of dollars that he's acquired and processed. So when a customer spends $1, he's getting paid a small percentage of it. And he has thousands of small companies that, if you look at all the money that's processed under him with his partnership with Visa, he's processed over $1 billion. So technically, in his case, he has a multi-million-dollar business that processes billions of dollars. And he told me this one day. He said, we don't have the complexion for connection. And sometimes because of that, it limits the rooms that we can get into. It limits the tables that we can sit at because we don't have the complexion that's normal per se, right? Now, for me, I'm black. You may be black, you may be Latin, you may be of Asian descent or something of the nature. You may be European and so on and so forth. But what you and I have in common is that our family's background is not from the United States. Your mother, your grandmother, your grandfather is not from the United States. And if that's true, you're probably going to lack access to business knowledge. And that challenge is faced by everyone. Now, when you experience that challenge, I don't want you to get stressed out because there are some things that you don't have. Although you may not have the specific knowledge, you can get it. Now, today, there's platforms like YouTube. So be sure, anytime you have a question, go to YouTube and find out who has that information. I know in my background, my first business was I owned cell phone stores on the East Coast. And I had a mentor. The first thing I share with you is go to YouTube. But number two is you want to get a mentor. Find somebody that you can get in front of and serve. Who can you serve in their life and in their business so that way you can learn on their dime, on their energy? So when I was 19 years old, almost 10 years ago, I had an opportunity to get mentorship from someone who owned cell phone stores. He had a partnership with T-Mobile. And I went to him and I said, hey, can I work for you? So I worked for him for about a year. And in that year, I found out every opportunity that I can bring value. So when you find that mentor, you just want to bring value. And what's value? Like you can't go to someone and say, can I give you value? You got to go to someone, find out what they're lacking, what they're missing, like between where they are today and where they want to go, find out what's in that gap and add little pieces of different elements that could just bring them one step closer. It could be as simple as that person wants to make more money this year and you're able to bring in revenue for their business, right? That's value. So now by you giving value, that person's going to look to you and say, hey, how can I give you value? And then that's how you get access to the business knowledge that you and I didn't grow up with, right? My parents come from a poor background in Haiti where you would eat once a day and it was just enough food just to get by. Poor country, no running water, so on and so forth, right? That's their background. And coming into the United States here, we get running water, but there's information that doesn't allow us to progress. And you start seeing that your friends and your people around you, they don't get to experience the success that other people may have that are born here in the United States because, it's a different experience growing up. So if you want to really take that jump, that leap, you want to get on someone's shoulders who's a little bit higher than you, who already has a business that's successful and you're learning directly from them. It's worth a year. Like commit to 1 year. It's going to be 100% worth it. If I went to God and I said, hey, God, I want to build $1 million business all by myself, I might be able to do that, but it might take me 6 years to do that. Or I can go and say, hey, I want to get a mentorship and God put me in front of somebody who I can learn from. And you work for that person, you serve that person for a year, you find out everything you can know about running a business, what it takes to be successful and so on and so forth. And the first year, you're just learning. And then a year after that, you go and do it yourself. Boom. Within 2 years, you're able to make $1 million compared to the 6 years. So you want to get in front of mentors, get in front of the right people. Now, the next thing that you're probably experiencing very much like myself is like you feel this energy of like you're starting from scratch. When my grandfather passed away, I wasn't left any money. You ever hear those stories about somebody's grandfather died or a grandmother died and that person inherited $500,000 or $1 million, the young person inherited that money? That doesn't happen typically for us immigrants. That doesn't really happen. I know when my grandfather died, I think that question came across to almost all of my siblings and cousins, like, is there anything that's left? And really, there's not much, right? Because ever since they came to the United States, they've been on hustle mode just to get by, just to pay the rent, just to pay the car, just to have a little bit of money to pay the groceries, because they were limited with their business knowledge or income knowledge or money knowledge back then as well. So when they die and you look at the bank account and you're like, man, there's not really much to split amongst, so many siblings and cousins and aunties and uncles and so on and so forth. There's not that much. So you're going to feel like you're starting from scratch. And because of that, especially if you're a first generation immigrant, you're going to have limited access to capital. You're going to have limited access to credit. You can't get credit from your mom. You can't get credit from your grandfather. You can't get credit from your uncle, here in the States. So you're going to need some strategies to create funding. And really, it's probably going to start with you bootstrapping, right? You got to understand how money works. How can you flip money? Number one. Number two, how can you create recurring income? Number three, how can you create passive income? And then number four, how can you multiply money? Like, how can you make your first, let's say, $5,000? Like, how can you put your first $5,000 to the side? Once you accomplish that, you don't really have much to invest anyway if you make your first $5,000, but it might be more of a mental thing. So your first objective should be putting $5,000 to the side that you don't need. That's your first thing. That's your first goal. Now, your second goal after that is really going to be putting your first $10,000 to the side that you don't need. Now you got your first 5 figures. Boom. You don't need it. You don't have to spend it. It's there for you. This gives you discipline. So the first muscle that you want to create is not like, how do I become a real estate investor? That's like the question I'll get. Like, how do I become an investor and flip my money? Like right now, you got to be disciplined with money to the point where you can have money in your account and you don't spend it. That's your first thing. I think us as immigrants, it's easy for us to want to look the part and feel the part. I know in my community, for example, like in the Black community, it's very prominent that we buy the Gucci belts or the Ray-Bans or the Prada and the designer because it makes us feel a certain way. And I have this back and forth with my wife all the time. My wife is also a first generation immigrant, so she understands. But I had this argument back and forth. I'm not buying Ray-Bans. I can go on Amazon and buy 10 glasses for $5 a piece. That's $50. And if they break, they break. Like, I'm not going to buy the Ray-Bans. I have no interest in buying the Ray-Bans right now. I have no interest in buying the Gucci or the Louis or so on and so forth. Right? That's not what I want for my money. I want to take experiences, right? I want to travel. I want to grow. I want to multiply my money. I want to take my time freedom and still make money in my sleep. That's what I'm investing my money and my energy into. So the first thing that you got to create is money discipline. So when you put the money to the side, what I really want to see from you is you have $10,000 in your savings account and you have $290 in your checking account and you're looking like, man, I don't got the money. Like when your friends come to you and like, hey, let's go out to the club this weekend. Let's go hang out this weekend. And your response is, I don't got the money. And you might have the $10,000 to the side, but like the real honest truth, you might not really actually have the money because you're disciplined with your money. So the first thing that you want to do to overcome like some financial constraints that are built by being an immigrant is don't spend it all. Don't spend it once you get it. The second thing that you want to start learning how to do is how do you take that money and invest it to flip it? And when I say flip it, it's when you're taking that money, you're buying a product or you're buying a service or you're buying something that will allow you to create a return on your investment and make more money. For example, I know for me back in my day, I used to flip sneakers. So in the beginning, my early discipline of money, I would stash maybe $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000, and I would take a portion of that money and then I would go ahead and buy sneakers. And I would take those sneakers and I would take all my friends from high school and I would give them $20 a piece. And I would say, hey, let's stay overnight at the mall. And when the store, Foot Locker or Champs or any of the sneaker stores open up, because they had a rule that one person couldn't buy multiple sneakers, I would give them $20 a piece and I would give them all $160 to go ahead and buy the sneakers for me. So I give them $20 for them to keep. And I'll go with like 5 friends and each of you get $20. Plus I'm going to give you $160 for you to go buy sneakers and just give me the sneakers at the end. I would go home and then I would post it on Facebook and I would sell the sneakers. So the sneakers might cost me $160, but because they were so popular and they were sold out by the afternoon of that day when the sneakers got released, I can then sell them for a premium. I'll sell it for $270. So let's just do the easy math. Let's say, for example, I buy a sneaker at $160 and then I sell it for $260, right? So I'm going from $160 to $260. I make $100 profit. And if I do that 5 times, I make $500 profit and I make my money back by the afternoon. So that's what we call flipping the money. So now I put that money back into my savings. I got an extra $500. I take a little portion at the top and I put it back into savings and now I can spend the rest. So that's building discipline with money where my savings is growing, but I'm using that money to make more money. Then the next stage is going to be creating recurring revenue where you do a service or you have a product that you sell to get money every single month. So I'll give you an example. Even back when I was in the beginning of my entrepreneurship days, I'm from the East Coast, so it would snow. I would have people pay me monthly to come and shovel their yard for them. Now, like I got people automatically like paying me every single month, right? So that's reoccurring where I'm making money and I don't really got to work hard for it to go get the money. I already know it's coming in next week. I might have to do a service for it, but I already know it's coming in. Then the next level of building your financial wealth is going to be creating passive income. That's where you invest one time, and that one-time investment pays you monthly, weekly, quarterly, whatever that may look like. So you may get to a point where you have so much money stashed up that you buy real estate, and that real estate pays you every single month. For me, I have a software company. My software company is Progretta, and we have people on the software. We have hundreds of users on the software that pay $197, $397, $497, $749 per month. And that's just in one of my companies, right? And they pay every single month to use our product. So that's an example of building passive income. So I share that with you because that's probably the journey that you are going on. And if you're at the beginning stage of your journey, that stage is as important as the next because you're learning something. I couldn't have jumped to passive income if I never had the disciplines in stashing money without spending it. There would be no way for me to successfully save money and to grow a business successfully because it takes what we call money management. It takes the management of money, and you want to do that successfully. You want to have that muscle and that discipline already ahead of time before you're in the game, before you're doing it for real. The next thing that you're probably going to experience as immigrant that is growing a business is what I call the black sheep phenomenon. Look, my family doesn't come from the world of like heavy risk takers and entrepreneurship. And, there have been some that have taken that leap and, it didn't work out successfully. And because it didn't work out successfully, they put that negativity and that belief pattern on the younger individuals. So you're probably one of those younger individuals, if you're anything like myself, right? Where you're like, hey, look, man, I know I can become successful. I know I can grow a business. I know I can make money. I know I can take it to the next level. But my family says no. My mom tells me to go to college. My dad tells me to be a doctor, whatever that may look like. I know for me, my parents were like heavy into the school. Like, Andy, you gotta go to school. Why? Because everyone above me got an education. Like my grandfather came to the United States and he didn't get like a normal college education. That's because he was hustling and working every single day. And what my aunts did, my uncles did, everyone got an education. And so when it came down to the next generation, which I was the first one, it was expected like, no, you're gonna go get an education. What do you mean? You're gonna go get an education. And I had this troubling thing for me where I said, I want to go be a business owner. I want to be an entrepreneur. Now, I didn't even know what an entrepreneur was back then, right? I didn't know that's what it was. I just knew that there was a different way to live and create success. So I went to college to kind of get my parents off my back. But man, I went to college for one semester. I couldn't even do a second. And really for me, there was a math class specifically that I just couldn't pass. And my mentor was like, why do you go to college? And I thought to myself that my mentor was trying to keep me from college so I can continue work for him. But really he was teaching me the game. He said, why are you going to college when you could just work and hire somebody to do what you don't want to do? And it didn't click on me. So I went to college despite my mentor's advice, and I listened to my mom and my dad, which I love dearly. They love me dearly, but they were sharing with me what they knew. It's kind of like having an iPhone 3 versus an iPhone 14. The operating system is different. The technology is different. So the button placement of an iPhone 3 that came out in 2007 is completely different than the button placements in the newer iPhone, right? It's different technologies. It's a different time. It doesn't work the same. It might have the same idea, but it doesn't work the same. So my parents came from a place of love, no question about that. However, I don't think it was going to be working for the current situation that we're in today, where now most people who are working a corporate job and went to college, they're looking at entrepreneurs and they're like, can you teach me how? And I knew early on the corporate route, the school route wasn't really going to be for me. It wasn't going to work out for me. And so I share that with you because your family's probably expecting you to do the same, like go to school, get educated, get a degree, and then you could try entrepreneurship. They'll probably have that type of response for you, like try later, try your entrepreneurship journey, try that your little business later. And you're like, that's not a little business, that's my company. And it's just you hustling. But there's going to be a conflict and there's going to be pressures that you're going to experience because your family has these traditional family expectations, and your choice to deviate is going to put you on the edge with your family. And then it's going to feel like everyone is of one kind in your family and you're this black sheep. You're different. You're not the same. And there's something different about you. And you're like out on the outside. And that feeling, you're going to experience that in the beginning of your journey for sure. Now, hold on tight. if you're experiencing the black sheep phenomenon, what I'd like you to do is I want you to write down the pros and the cons of your entrepreneurship journey. And so that way you can showcase to your family that you understand the downside. I think the biggest challenge that your family may be experiencing is that you don't know the risk that you're taking. You're thinking about the positives. You're not recognizing that there's negatives. It demonstrates that you understand that there are cons. You understand that there are negatives. You understand that there is a bad side to it potentially, but you also recognize that there's a potential upside, and the pursuit of that potential positive side outweighs the negative side. Like, I remember going to my family when I had dropped out of college. I don't even know if I deliberately said I'm dropping out of college, because I think it was like kind of taboo. It was like one of those things like you don't really want to say that. But I think I more so like said, I'll go back to it down the road. And it's been about 10 years since I've gone back to it. If anything, most of my team members that work for me have college degrees. So my business is like fully degreed up. Like, my team is educated, but I lead the staff. I'm the visionary. I'm the decision maker. So I went to my mom one time. My mom was like, you're going to need to know the numbers. You're going to need to know the math of running a business. I said, I'll hire the person to do that for me, because I have a skill set. That skill set is generating income. If I can generate income, then I'll just give a portion of my money to the person that I need to operate a specific position or a specific role in my vision. Right. And that's the pro for you, right? That's going to be the positive outlook of you starting your business or running your company. So you want to document where you write the pros and the cons and show it to your family and showcase to them that you understand that there is a downside, and let them know that you're at the age and you're at the stage of your life that you want to take a risk, similar to them taking a risk to come to the United States, right? That's how I did it. I showcased that to my family and I said, look, you guys took a risk. Did you know what was on the other side of the coming to the United States? They took a risk, and that risk has paid them dividends. It's been valuable. It's been the right decision for them. And what would life look like if they stayed in their country? And ask them that. And then they will share with you, life will look like negative, these challenges, and so on and so forth. And say, yes, that's right. You made a decision to move out of the country, out of your normal environment, and you took a risk because there was something positive. Now you're going back to them and you're saying, I'm literally just doing the same thing you did. You took a risk. I'm taking a risk, and my risk just looks a little bit different than yours because this is about starting a business. So by you truly communicating that you understand the upside and the downside, there's nothing that they can tell you. Now, it is very true though. Like, you got to really understand the downside though. This is not just to convince someone. You really got to understand the downside. Like, I experienced a downside actually in my journey, 2014, 15, and 16. I built my first $1 million business, right? I took that money and I moved to California, and I stayed in California for 4 or 5 years. And then when the pandemic happened, I moved to where I am now, which is currently Las Vegas. But back in my journey, like in 2016, I made a lot of money, but then I wasn't financially educated. And everything that I'm telling you now is because of the mistakes that I made, right? My family didn't come from the money that I made. So no one ever taught me how to continue to flip and grind and push and multiply. See, there's a difference between the hustle and multiplication. Hustle is like going and getting the next dollar. Multiplication is, okay, I have $1,000 or I have $10,000 or I have $100,000. How do I take this money and multiply this money to make this $100,000 into $200,000? You're not going to hustle your way to $200,000 like that. You're going to take that $100,000, invest it correctly, so that way you can take that $100,000 and turn it into $200,000. It's a different mindset. So no one ever taught me that. So I went through and I lost money in 2017. I went down to zero. I really went down to zero. I remember actually I got a letter from my landlord at the time. I wasn't working. I made so much money that I didn't have to work for like a year and a half. And I got a message from my landlord who said, and it's time for you to pay up. And I looked at my bank account and I was like, I don't have any money. Mind you, I haven't been working at that time. So like, I started my business. And then after my first business in the cell phone industry, I closed down that business and I took that money and I moved, and I didn't have to work for quite some time. And I made so much money at the time that I was like, oh, I'm successful. And I didn't work. But then I lost the money because I was spending it without working and getting income. So I went down to zero. But when I went down to zero, I share that with you because it humbled me in that moment. And I realized that you can lose it all. So you can make money, you can lose it all pretty quickly if you don't know what you're doing. And at that time, I truly did not know what I was doing. So that's a downside of being an entrepreneur. Like, you can actually go down to zero. At a job, the next week, they're going to pay you. You can go down to zero and then you have a terrible week and then you get a paycheck and then now you're back up, right? As an entrepreneur, that is a downside. So be sure that you understand the downsides of running a business. So although I built successful businesses, if you don't know how to manage the money that you make and realize the value of the money, then you can make a tremendous big mistake. right? But now, ever since 2017, I've completely bounced back. I employ a large staff today. I have thousands of clients who work with me. And it's because of this grit that I believe that you and I both have internally by being an immigrant and our family being immigrants, that this black sheep thing that we have, that we're a little bit different, that you and I are a little bit like on the edge of life, that thing that we have that no one can ever put their finger on and call it what it is. And I just call it the black sheep phenomenon. That thing will get you to wherever you need to go. So I knew for a fact, like I have this confidence in me that you can drop me into a city with $0 and I'm going to come out swinging with a bunch of cash and I'm going to win. Why? Because I've done it. So I went to Los Angeles. I had cash and I went all the way down to zero because I didn't make any income. I didn't put any energy or focus on income. Like when I moved to Los Angeles, I actually didn't even start a business for a while, right? I was just spending the money from my original business. And I went down to zero and I realized, I looked at myself in the mirror one day and I said, you know who you are and you know where you come from. Your grandfather showed you everything you need to know. I saw my grandfather's work ethic and that showed me like, hey, you know what it takes. So there was one day where I was at zero and I got up and I went out into the field and I went and knocked on doors. I didn't have an email list or a phone list or a business list. I literally had a vision and I said, hey, I'm going to go to small businesses and I'm going to go knock on their doors and I'm going to ask them to train their sales team because I know sales. At the time, I was 22 years old, 23 years old with a briefcase and a backpack. And I'm like going around Los Angeles, California. I'm like, I'm going to train your sales team. And a bunch of people like, hell no, get out of here. Nope, not interested. I remember this one guy, he laughed at me, but my grandparents, my family showed me resiliency. And that's what you have. You are resilient. You are strong. You can overcome challenges that other people can't. And because you have that, you are set up to win. You actually have a competitive advantage compared to other people who may have been born here and come from a family of like, you know, the right complexion and the right knowledge and so on and so forth. You have this grit and desire. Take that, hone in on it, and follow the steps that I share with you in this video. So that way you can for sure create the success that you want in your life and in your business because you have something inside of you that a lot of people wish they had. You have this black sheep phenomenon. You have this grit, this hunger, this understanding, this will, and this power to win. You can win in this new world that we live in. You can win in this new economy. You're going to have these opposing challenges. And the last one that you're probably going to experience is like this imposter syndrome where like you don't fit in or like you feel like this is not for you because you never saw someone else experience it. Listen, if you're the first millionaire in your family, you're going to experience that. Now, you may not be the millionaire today in your family, but you got to act like the first millionaire in your family. And once you act like the first millionaire family, everyone is going to move out of the way as you move forward and you will win. You got something inside of you. You have greatness inside of you. I hope that this video was valuable to you. If you're at a stage in your life, in your business, and you're like, man, I just want to win. Just know you already got the winning spirit inside of you. You come from a winning spirit. Your family came and did the biggest thing. Like it's already in your blood. For people to leave their city and go to another city, that's one thing. But for someone to leave their city and go to another country, that's a whole nother beast. And you already have that resilience and that strength inside of you. Take advantage of that and create success for your life and the lives of the people that depend on you. My name is Andy Audate. I hope this video served you in your life and your entrepreneurship. If you're at the beginning of your entrepreneurship journey in my business, I help small business owners grow and scale their business. I create marketing campaigns and Facebook ads and Instagram ads to help small business owners get more customers so that way they can continue to get more money in their business. If you like this content, I'm going to be doing more content like this related to entrepreneurship, personal growth, and cultural experiences. So you want to take advantage of an opportunity of a lifetime and the lifetime of the opportunity. And I want you to progress daily. If you love this content, then like the video down below and subscribe to my YouTube channel so that way you get notified every time I drop content like this. I'll see you on our next video.